Hey everyone, I'm Ryan, the host of the Roast West Coast Coffee podcast. I host the show on Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard of it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything that you need all in one place. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I host on Anchor because it distributes my podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more, making it easier for me to spend my time interviewing guests and drinking coffee. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast all in one place, and best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Roast West Coast Coffee podcast. I'm Ryan Wolt, and this is the show where I bring you the inspiring and entrepreneurial stories of coffee people. Thanks for joining me for a quick pop-in with Erin Harper. If you listen to the show, you know that Erin has been here before as the operator of Old Cal Coffee and the founder of Ascend Roasters. There's been some big news coming out of both businesses, which is why I reached out to Erin just to say hello. So pour yourself a cup of coffee and join me for this pop-in with Erin Harper, founder and head roaster of Ascend Roasters, on the Roast West Coast Coffee podcast. It's good to see you. Congratulations on everything. I'm excited to hear about it.
Thank you.
Let's just jump right in. I'm just going to tell everyone. I'm talking to Erin Harper, former operator, co-owner of Old Cal Coffee Company in San Marcos, California, and founder and head roaster of Ascend Coffee Roasters. And now something exciting has happened, and I'm going to let you tell us about how did Old Cal Coffee become officially your Ascend Coffee Roasters?
Well, it kind of starts about 2 years ago, January 2021. So in January 2021, our lease was up at Old Cal Coffee, and a new owner had purchased the property, and they were remaining nameless, as a lot of people have seen, because they were trying to figure out who owned Restaurant Row. And they weren't offering us a lease renewal because it was just serendipitous that same month was when our lease ended. So we just kind of rolled into this month-to-month lease, and there's new owners and the parking lot's falling apart. As a lot of people have noticed, Restaurant Row hasn't been kept the way that most parking lots or shopping centers are. So the writing was kind of on the wall, something's going on here and the business isn't safe here. I asked myself, what do I need to do to not cry about it? What could I be doing to set myself up for the future and my staff up for the future? So that was when I started Ascend Coffee Roasters. I was like, we're going to learn to roast coffee. We're going to start helping people make coffee at home, to the best of our ability, teach people online. We're going to try to get wholesale accounts and serve other businesses with our coffee. And if in the meantime we can get Ascend Coffee Roasters up and going, then we all have jobs and stuff to do if Old Cal Coffee were to be no more. So that was kind of the thought process, although it's evolved into something I didn't even expect. So I had business partners with Old Cal Coffee. And once I was ready to run the business, they started delving into other businesses. My old partner Giovanna got into property management, and Craig was doing marketing and a little bit of real estate too. So their other projects were up and running. They had a lot of time to get that started. And when they heard about Restaurant Row, they kind of were like, do we really want to keep doing coffee? Maybe it's time for us to retire from coffee. At the end of last year, they decided it was time to retire from coffee and they were ready to just close shop. And I was like, hold on, I'm trying to grow this thing. I have a lot of dreams around Ascend. We ended up striking up a deal where I could take over that location, start planting the roots for Ascend, and start our future under this new umbrella. So that's kind of how it happened over the last 2 years.
And I just want to clarify, Old Cal Coffee has been in the same location since I believe 97,
1990.
1990, even longer. It's, been a coffee institution in a part of North County, San Diego that didn't have a lot of good coffee shops for a long time. And the risk was that that building was going to go away. That physical location was going to disappear. And you were looking, what am I going to do if that happens? And this, all of the goodwill we've built up over 20, 30 years has gone away. And so on the first of the year, I believe, the transition officially happened, and I saw an Instagram video of the old Cal Coffee sign coming down and the Ascend Coffee Roaster sign going up. Because for now, at least, that building is still in play. It's still there. It's still staying. What was that feeling like, seeing that sign that you designed, that logo that was from your brand, going up and taking the place of something that you had also been so integrally involved in? I mean, you've been with Old Cal for what, 10, almost 10 years, I think, right?
12 years this
There you go.
February. Yeah. So I was kind of like wondering and anticipating what that was going to feel like. Like, am I going to be sad? Am I going to be excited? And it was such a mix of both. Like, I met my husband at Old Cal Coffee. It's where I learned everything about running a cafe, about coffee. It's where I met the community of San Marcos. So there were like very sad feelings involved with like watching it go away. But at the same time, a lot of excitement because Old Cal Coffee was a brand I inherited and Ascend was something I started. So even filling out like government paperwork and putting Ascend coffee roasters on it felt completely different than writing Old Cal Coffee. I don't know if that resonates, but for me, I was like, this is my baby, something that is like, I get the freedom to do it exactly the way that I want to. And I created it out of nothing. So there was a lot of excitement to put up the Ascend sign. The other thing that was cool was one of our baristas painted that really colorful sign, and she did such a good job. So to watch the place go from like an idea I had in my head to remodel it and change it up a little bit to like actually on the wall and see everything, it was just a beautiful moment, very exciting. And I was so excited to share it with people when we opened on New Year's Day.
Is there a major difference in the experience now for people that have been going to Old Cal and now they're walking into Ascend? They're going to see a familiar face and familiar faces. But how has the coffee shop experience changed, at least for now, if at all?
The experience should be the same. Our goal is comfortable, cool hangout. So we want everyone who walks in the door to feel welcome there and like they can hang out, they can do their work. We're not trying to run anybody out the door. So that should stay the same. But one thing that we changed pretty drastically is the food menu. Before it was sandwiches and salads and soups. And I kind of wanted to throw in a fresh Southern California vibe to the food menu. So now we're making burritos, like breakfast burritos, lunch burritos. We've got breakfast tacos. We still have like artisan toasts, like avocado toast and acai bowls and bagels with cream cheese. But we kind of like switched up the whole idea behind the food menu. And at first, people were like, where's my backyard club or the sandwiches they were used to? But now, once people have tried it, I'm getting like these amazing reviews of the food. Like, I really think it took it to another level. And one thing Old Cal was famous for was its homemade Chipotle sauce, like a Chipotle mayo. And we still have that. So people can rest assured that the Chipotle sauce is still there.
You're bridging that gap. I come from a relatively small town, and we have our cafes where things have been the same for so long, and everybody gets really up in arms when something changes. But ultimately, it's usually for the better, and it's forces people out of their. You change your BLT sandwich to a burrito one day. Who knows what could happen later that day? I mean, the world is open to you. You originally, we talked about almost exactly at the time that this was all starting to go down, where the word had come out that the property had been sold. You were thinking about doing a different Ascend roaster somewhere else that was growing. I'll link to that conversation that we had shared with people about a year ago. Is that something that you're still working on? Is there going to be an Ascend roaster somewhere else? Have you started roasting at the Old Cal location? how has that part of the business changed? Because the roasting operation is different from the cafe operation.
Yeah, I actually roast right now at the California Collective, which is down the street from Old Cal Coffee on Grand. So it's like a warehouse where I can roast. And I like that setup for right now because I can really zero in and focus without all the distractions of the cafe. So I can make sure the coffee's at like peak level. So I'm happy with that at the moment. And we are definitely working on our next jump in location because Restaurant Row isn't going to be there forever. The new owners don't currently have any permits for what they want to do in that space. So we probably have a year or 2 years left there. They think a year. I think it's going to be more like 2 because we know how construction goes.
I was going to say maybe 5. This is Southern California.
Yeah, and we've watched Restaurant Row have plans over the years, blueprints, drawings they show us, and then nothing ever happened except for taking out some of the buildings in the back that were vacant. So I'm with you. It could be 5 years. And we're going to stay there as long as we can because that is where our community is. And that's where this amazing community that supports us knows to find us, which is why I kept Ascend there because we need time for people to realize like, oh, it's Erin and Stacy and Alexis. Like my crew is still there. It's all the same people, all the same love and care put into it. But we are currently working on a spot in Vista that will be done in about 12 months. And if Restaurant Row is still operating, we'll be in both locations. And then we also want to find a new spot in San Marcos along the way as well, although I don't know when the timeline is on that. But our community is San Marcos. We want to be there and serve them. We're excited to like expand out into Vista, and I live in Vista, so I'm excited to get to know the community in the same way. But San Marcos is where we want to be, and we just need to figure out where that's going to end up being.
I feel like we're in January 2023. This feels like the most hopeful January that we've had in a while. And it gets me excited to see other people doing great things like opening new places or putting a new spin on a place that they've already grown to love. We're only 10 days into the year. This is the 10th. And if you're listening, you're hearing this about a week after we chat, but we're 10 days into January, 10 days since that sign transition. You've obviously been working towards this behind the scenes for a while. Taking stock of where things are now, how are you feeling about everything? I mean, are you feeling, is that emotion of that first day still there, or have you transitioned into, all right, we're working and we're just working and moving forward and this has got to get done and this has got to get done? And I say that because in my experience working in restaurants or running restaurants, sometimes I would forget to slow down and take in everything that was happening.
I can hear your experience in this industry in this question. Like, you know what you're looking at. And the first day felt so weird. And the highest of highs and the lowest of lows because you're just excited, but you're worried. Like, are people going to like what I've done with the place? Are they going to like the changes? Have I made any mistakes that, like you just wonder. So the first week was weird and now we're into week 2. And I actually feel like I'm back in the driver's seat where I was kind of floating last week, trying to get my bearings. And I have been doing this for 12 years. So once again, I kind of feel like, okay, I know what to do. I know how to maneuver this and everything's going to work out. I think in this industry, especially when you choose to be your own boss and take on the responsibility of a business, you have to have some faith because I don't have the next 5 years mapped out with certainty. But I have watched a lot of things happen over the last 12 years where I felt at a loss, but they worked out. And as long as you keep your focus on your business and keep your focus on your values and the community that supports you, that the answers come and the opportunities come. So that's what I have to remind myself because, with the fate of Restaurant Row and then these plans to move, it is a little nerve-wracking. But I've watched a lot of, seas part for us, a lot of opportunities come out of, my business partners calling me and saying, hey, we're just going to close at the end of the year. And then being able to turn that into an opportunity. I hope I'm answering your question.
You are. I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of, especially hospitality is so engaging with the customer in ways that other industries aren't. And I've always felt that when you're putting out something that you in a community that you would be proud of to have in your community, which is obviously what you've been doing. Yes, there are other factors that come in, from economy to finances to inflation to everything. But when you're doing that and you're putting out that product that you are proud to stand in front of your peers in the community, generally support comes with that. I think it's very rare to me to see a place that fails because the community just says, well, we see what you're offering and we just don't like it. It's more often than not that there are other issues. And in this case, what I saw with Old Cal, and after meeting you, and now hopefully with Ascend moving forward, is you've never shied away from the fact that you are the person that they see when they come in the door. And this, I'm giving you this, and we live in this community and we go to the same stores and we see each other in the parks. I want you to be as proud of this as I am. And I think that's admirable, and why you'll succeed.
Thank you. And it's 100% that. Like, one thing I've learned over the years, because I got into this when I was 21 and my world was a lot smaller, but the people who frequent the coffee house are my friends. And I know more about them and I see them more often than I see my family because, I'm there so much. The support that they've given me, I've gotten emails over the last week just telling me congratulations and that people are going to come by and support it. And for all the fears that I have had in my head at times, those messages and the smiles and the people coming up to me and talking to me about how excited they are about it has given me so much strength. And that this community deserves an awesome coffee shop that gives back to it.
Well, I congratulate you on your continued success. Is there anything else that we should share today, just so people know, before we go?
We will be having a ribbon cutting on January 20th, which you'll be attending.
Yes, I will.
In person. Ryan will be there. We're going to do just like a celebration of the changes. We're going to do like a little coffee class and just offer some coffee education and show off our variety of roasts. And it's going to be an exciting day. So Friday, January 20th at 10 a.m. is the ribbon cutting. And other than that, I just invite everybody to come check it out. We're roasting our own beans. Our baristas are total pros when it comes to crafting coffee. And we have a brand new food menu that's amazing and people should try. And on top of that, the cozy atmosphere of the coffee shop just can't be beat.
I will say Old Cal has this great thing where even though it's a coffee shop, there's almost like a whole bunch of different areas and experiences you can have, whether it's outside kind of around the corner, which is more private, in like the big main patio area. Inside, you can really find whatever sort of vibe you're looking for, or privacy, I would almost say, that you're looking for too in a coffee shop. So Erin, thank you for doing this check-in with me, coming back. I'm really excited to see you guys and come out and visit, which I will be on January 20th for that ribbon cutting. And thanks for being on Roast West Coast.
Thank you for having me and helping me spread the word. You're awesome for this community.
Okay, to recap, I love the pop-in. I used to pop into people's homes all the time for a surprise visit. There were no expectations, and since I usually brought coffee or a six-pack, I was often welcomed with open arms. COVID changed the reality of the pop-in, but it motivated me to find other ways to connect. You're listening to this show, for example, so I think it worked. Erin faced a big question. How do we create something sustainable in the face of uncertainty? She decided to put her own stamp on things and create opportunity by embracing change. Even then, after putting the wheels in motion to create a new business, the situation with Old Cal Coffee and her relationship with her business partners changed. Her experience is a great reminder that being flexible is just as important as staying focused. It's a fine line to walk. Over at the new Ascend Roasters, things are different, yet still the same. I'll link to the previous conversations with Erin in the newsletter on roastwestcoast.com. And I hope to see you at Ascend Roasters, perhaps for that ribbon cutting. Follow Ascend Roasters on social media at Ascend Roasters, or head to ascendroasters.com to order coffee. If you're searching but not finding, I'll also include those links in this show's podcast notes and in the newsletter, which is where you can also find the brand new Coffee Smarter Education podcast. The first 3 episodes are already out. Learn the ins and outs of making a better cup of coffee at home. Find it on roastwestcoast.com or search for Coffee Smarter on your favorite podcast platform. This podcast's coffee industry partners include Café Laterre, Moster Coffee Company, Steady State Coffee Roasting, Camp Coffee Company, Coffee Cycle Roasting, Ignite Coffee Company, Maria Coffee, Cape Horn Coffee Importers, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, and Ascend Coffee Roasters. Thank you for listening and supporting this show. This episode of the Roast West Coast Coffee Podcast has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Wolt. I hope this episode has found you happy, healthy, and with at least enough sanity to make it through the day. Always tip your baristas, and be sure to drink good coffee. Did you know that this podcast is a listener and reader-supported creative effort? It's true. There are a bunch of crazy and cool people who subscribe to the paid version of this newsletter at roastwestcoast.com. If you've been enjoying this episode, or the 130 or so that came before it, please consider subscribing. The podcast is always free to listen to, but the paid subscriptions are how this show grows. And damn if I don't appreciate the support that comes every time a new name shows up on that paid subscriber roll. Thank you.